Welcome to the Courage to Live podcast. My name is Josh Bitsko. I'm a retired police captain from Las Vegas with 24 years of experience. Currently, I travel the country and I teach people about courage, resilience, and leadership. In today's Courage Cast, we're going to talk about anger. And I think anger is one of the most common emotions that people can experience. And it's also one of the most misunderstood. And the reason for that is anger is often a response to covering another emotion. And so, what does that mean? It means, let's say I'm feeling shame about something. And I feel bad because maybe I did something wrong in a relationship. Well, anger is often covering up shame. So, when you get mad and maybe you're projecting, anger is the easier, and oftentimes it feels a lot more powerful, right? When you're angry, you feel powerful, but when you're feeling shame or sad, you don't. So oftentimes anger is covering up these other emotions like shame. And, in my longer podcast, one of the earlier ones, I talked about a time where Loki and I were involved in a deadly use of force. And my response after the suspect was shot was anger. I, in fact, kicked a large dent in the side of my canine truck. And that was because, yes, I was mad that we ended up having to use deadly force on someone, but really I felt a lot of shame for that. And, was there something else I could have done? That had never happened where my dog was biting someone and I had to use deadly force, or a deadly force had to be used on the suspect. And so it's easier to be mad than it is to feel a decent amount of shame or sadness. So, like, another time I felt anger, and this one lasted a long time, was after my brother took his own life. And I was so mad at him. I was so mad that, in my head, it was he made this decision to do this and leave his family and hurt all the people around him that loved him. And that anger, it was just so pervasive in what I was feeling almost every day whenever he would come to mind. But feeling angry was a lot easier than being sad and being introspective about, maybe there was something I could have done better. I was feeling guilty because he had reached out a couple times. I'd made some offers, but I always wanted to think that I could have done more. And that's a difficult truth to accept, and a much more difficult truth than being angry that this happened. Because ultimately, when someone makes that decision to take their own life, they're in such a low and dark place that it's not like it's a healthy or conscious decision that people are making. So, like I said, I anger was often a go-to for mine to cover a lot of feelings, and it does provide some short-term relief. Anger distracts from that pain in the moment, but it also keeps that wound from healing, because over time the anger damages your relationships. It can help isolate you. It compounds a lot of the grief that you were trying to avoid in that moment. And I recognize that pattern. I ask myself, am I really angry about this, or is the sadness just too heavy to face? And I turned that quarter with my brother several years after he took his own life, and it was a hard couple of months. And I was in therapy and talking about it and getting emotional. And I'm finally in a place where I'm not angry with him. I'm sad he's gone. I wish that he wouldn't have made that decision, but I have a better understanding of it now. So ultimately, so what do you do with all this? You can choose courage over control. You can't control every situation, and anger is associated with trying to control something. So letting yourself grieve or feel the shame that you're feeling, and confront it head on, letting yourself be sad, those are what make you human. And there's courage in letting the tears fall. There's courage in having the hard conversations. There's courage in sitting with the pain instead of covering it with anger. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I got a little emotional a couple times, but I really appreciate you taking some time to spend with me. And if you like the podcast, share it with a friend or subscribe, or even leave a review down below. Thank you.